All right, looks like, are we live? I see the little red live button. Well,
Yeah, we're
let me
live.
know we're live.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks Mal for setting this up. And so we just want to give a little bit of an update about what we're seeing. I've got with me here today, Mayor Adler, Council Member Vanessa Fuentes, and then Mayor Larry Wallace of Manor, as well as Chuck Brotherton, does emergency management here at the county. And we're just going to kind of give you a little bit about what we are seeing and hopefully answer a few questions as well. So I'm sitting here at the Emergency Operations Center, which is the sort of joint operations center for everyone in the city and the county who is dealing with this cold weather emergency, from the EMS to the sheriff's department to a emergency manager from the city side and from the county side who sit next to one another. Everybody's kind of here behind me, working on getting the city and the county back up and running. Um, Good news, a lot more people were brought back online with power today. My parents are included in that number. They actually got power up last night, and so they're back in their house and warmer now. I know that there's still a lot of people without power though, and that the amount of time that they've had to go without power just frankly blows my mind, and I feel for them. Um, all the water plants are also back online, which is a good sign. We obviously still have water outages and a lot of problems with the water, but the plants themselves are back online. So that's a good step in the right direction. It's going to take us a while to get water pressure up to normal. And that's going to depend on all of us using as little water as possible. A couple just snippets of what we're working on. So today, for example, we got an oxygen truck up to one of the hospitals that needed it. It was stuck in San Antonio in a parking garage, kind of iced in there. And the county judge of Bexar County actually helped get it unstuck, helped them get on the highway and get on their way up here. And then we were able to get that to a hospital that needed it here in Travis County. Another news, I know a lot of people are experiencing water breaks at their home. My parents had one too. There's like a garage apartment that they rent out at their house, and it sprung a leak and was pouring water out into the yard. And they were able, actually, Dave, who rents that garage apartment, is actually able to figure out the cutoff valve for that, which is a challenge in and of itself. And I know that a lot of people here are dealing with that same issue, but the sooner you can get that cut off, either on your own or by calling 311, it's extremely important for the water levels that we have. We're still under a water boil notice, so please make sure that you bring water to a boil and then boil it for at least 2 minutes before you drink it, cook it, or brush your teeth with it. The water utility, I think, is checking all the distribution lines for breaks and trying to fix those, and obviously there's a ton of work to do there. Capital Metro has really limited service, but is in service today. I think they're open, running service from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then tomorrow it'll be expanded more from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then this weekend, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then regular service, hopefully back on Monday. Their fares are waived at this point, which is great of them to do that. We are trying to get, obviously, because of the boil water and because of the fact that there are people who simply don't have any water right now, we're doing everything we can to get bottled water brought into the city and the county. The city secured 1 million gallons of water that are on their way sometime in the next few days. We just got word that, working with TDEM, with the Texas Department of Emergency Management, we have 2 18-wheelers of water that are picking them up basically in Fort Worth from the FEMA site and are going to drive them down here tomorrow morning. So we're, again, doing everything that we can to get water to people that is safe to drink, especially those folks who haven't had it for a while. I want to turn it over to Mayor Adler, who I've been working really closely with on all of this. What are you seeing from your end, Mayor? What updates do you have for us?
Judge, really appreciate the opportunity to work with you. Your leadership has been pretty wonderful here. As I look around the state at the interactions between counties and cities, not every county and city around the state that are in the same jurisdiction are working as well as is happening here in the city and Travis County. Staff's working really well with one another. It really is one seamless team. You're now at that Emergency Operations Center. Appreciate you being there. It's been there over the course of the emergency as well, and the dedicated people that are manning that place. Some of them not really leaving. There's a lot of bags of potato chips and boxes of kind of non-perishable foods that are there, and people are getting sustained on it. So while you're there, please thank them again for all of us in the community. Good to share this stage here with Mayor Wallace, who I greeted into his new job as mayor with a baptism of fire as he's come in, and it's been wonderful working with my colleague, Councilmember Fuentes, who just an incredible advocate for her district. I was in your district, Vanessa, a couple of days ago at the shelter at Mendez. Had the opportunity to meet Veronica, one of the people that was there sleeping on a cot, was able to leave a home without heat, and had found a safe place to be, and was just really friendly and warm. I mean, I felt like I should be the one in the shelter that was making people feel kind of comfortable and welcome, and she did that for me in that place. Alberto Pejia, volunteer extraordinaire there, along with many others from the neighborhood who were helping in that shelter. Good to be around them. Was at the shelter up in the Northeast Early College High School. Lots of volunteers from the Austin Disaster Recovery Network. I just want to shout out to them. They have done just an incredible job of having people in places, and she was there holding down the Fort Palmer, which is full now, just brimming with people, both people who are without shelter, and we were able to help hundreds of them get out of the snow and the ice, but also nearly 100 families with kids all upstairs playing with one another, kind of oblivious, I think, to what it was that's been happening, and having fun. But there are thousands of people, staff, thousands of volunteers. This is not easy. And I can see the frustration and the anger that people have. I share it. Everybody on this Facebook, Judge, shares that. And there are going to be a lot of questions that need to be answered about how we got here and how we make sure we're not here again. But right now, people are focused on making it through the next several days and trying to keep as many people safe and healthy as we can. Great to hear about the water, 1 million gallons of water coming in 16-ounce bottles that the judge mentioned. That's coming from 6 different states in the southeast part of the country, and trucks that are now on their way headed to us. On the power, you mentioned that. It's good news. At this point, the generation has been turned on sufficient so that the governor has told local folks that you can start turning on the power as soon as you clear the trees and the broken down lines, and can power up your systems safely without tripping stuff that would further to delay that. I don't know if you have over the course of this gone to ERCOT.com, but if you haven't, you might want to look at that site. I've been kind of watching it regularly. It's addictive, but you can see just earlier today the graph. They graph the generation and what the demand is. And when those two lines start getting together, everybody starts getting nervous, and that's when they start dumping load. But you can see early this morning, those lines once again got really close. But now they're as wide as I have seen them since this started. Thus, ERCOT now coming back and telling everybody they can do that. We're doing that here at Austin. Austin Energy tells us. And their crews have been working through the night to make sure that we can turn on lines, getting the trees that have fallen down off, the things that are broken with the cold weather. If they don't get all those things and they try to turn on the lines, then it's kind of like a breaker or fuse trips. And then it adds another day or another long period of time to getting stuff on. So they're being careful. But at this point, they've restored power to 92% of the Austin Energy customers. We're down to about 42,000 customers without power. That's down from the 220,000 people that didn't have power. As they begin to fire that up, it's kind of like they fire up the trunk and then the thick branches and then the smaller branches and then the twigs and then getting to the leaves, and they have to work their way out. As they do that, they find weather-related damage that needs to be addressed, and that's what's happening right now. Assuming that everything's okay, they'll work their way through that and everybody will get the power back again. If they run into problems either from ERCOT or with tripping lines, then it looks like Austin Energy is going to now be able to do the rotation work that they weren't able to do earlier when basically ERCOT shut everything down. I want to let you know that beginning tomorrow, trash recycling and compost collection is going to resume back in our city on Friday. Boy, I tell you, you take some things for granted until they're not happening anymore, and then you don't anymore. It's a relief to know that that service is going to be picking back up tomorrow. We're working on the roads. One thing you should know about us here in town is that we do not have any snow plows. Maybe we should talk about that after this is over, but we don't have any snow plows. What we do have are sanding trucks, and some of those sanding trucks we can outfit so they can work on snow and ice, and that's what they have been doing, and they have been continually out with crews trying to open up. I'm hopeful that we've had the last of the freezing precipitation for the next several days, although it's supposed to get again freezing tonight. So if roads had any water on them, it's going to freeze again. They're going to be slippery, but roads that have been cleared probably will be okay without additional precipitation. But the city and the county are going to be out clearing high priority roads overnight, minimum of 1 lane in each direction. Tip: only travel during the day if you can. At night, it's hard to tell whether there's black ice on the road. Hard to tell actually during the day too, so be really careful. Avoid overpasses unless it's really clear that the roadway's been cleared. Use a 4-wheel drive if you can, and treat traffic signals that are blinking or don't have lights. Treat those like a four-way stop. Where can you get food? The judge has been doing great work with the food bank. Central Texas Food Bank is going to be open Friday between 12 and 3. Volunteers are coming from Austin Disaster Recovery Network, Austin Mutual Aid Fund, with 4-wheel drive vehicles that'll be part of the effort to help deliver that food and water to folks that aren't able to get it. And we've also worked really hard today, the judge and I yesterday, in trying to get the grocery stores open again, trying to make sure that we can get power to them or water to them. Some of them are opening without water, so they've brought in porta potties and hand washing stations. We're trying to get water to them because when they do that, they can then start cooking food. And for people that don't have power, the ability to be able to cook food at home, I know it's expensive to do. But if you can, there's greater opportunity to get some prepared food. But half of the HEBs got turned back on today so that they can be open. Some of them that have been open, as you'll see when you go into the stores, don't have any perishables. Some of them, they got a truckload delivery 3 days ago and then were shut down immediately. And those stores are as stocked with food as any stores would otherwise be. It's interesting. The food for some of these stores, like Walmart's or HEBs, is kept at warehouses that are not in Austin. So there's a warehouse in Temple for HEB and a warehouse in San Antonio. And part of the challenge we've had is that trucks can't get out of those sites in order to come to us. In fact, the trucks at the HEB warehouse in Temple can't get out of the site in Temple. So right now we have the Texas National Guard up in those sites in Temple and San Antonio, busting ice to help get the trucks out of the site to get onto I-35. And then they're working with those trucks and with sand in order to try to deliver this flotilla of delivery trucks with food coming to our city. But we know right now that people are scared, are looking in their cupboards and the refrigerator, and there's not a lot there. Know that bringing in food and water, now that we have power, trying to get back on water, food and water is the highest priority that we have. Judge, thanks for everything that you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor. How about Mayor Wallace? You want to give us a little bit of perspective, what you're seeing in Manor, what challenges you're having?
Yeah, I would definitely say that this last 24 hours has been a significant change than the first 72 that we were going with. And same thing that Mayor Steve Adler's saying here is definitely hats off to you, Judge Brown, because you the next day were one of the ones to reach out and say, hey, how are things going? And that's when we started to have the dialogue, the first dialogue of saying, power going out for 4 hours at nighttime after we already told people to lower their temperatures down to 70 or below and plug everything out is not favorable, especially when we don't know what the people's living conditions are in their houses. And to turn that down when someone's sleeping and not affording the information to them to know that they need to better clothe probably their kids and so forth, right? And I think from there, it was then going and saying, who's making these decisions and why were we not included, at least on what the plan was, to properly relay this information to our community so the community could prepare. I mean, almost all communication about this stuff and to give credit, you didn't know as well when I was talking to you. So you were also left in the dark of what the plan was. And so we're all having to go based off of what social media in the media was posting of rolling for 20, 30 minutes and so forth. And that clearly was far from what was being put out there. Yes, we had HOAs that ran out of water, no water going whatsoever. We had Blue Bonnet that had its cycles going with almost 15 minutes on and 30 minutes off and slowly increasing over time. But we also had people that were on Encore Electric that had no electricity. And there was barriers or gaps in communication, especially how our city is kind of designed. When everything went down, cell towers went down, I could barely text more than one person at a time, maybe 20 words. Could barely make phone calls off of my personal and my city phone. So you're talking about not being able to prepare properly, trying to get information from organizations that suburban cities like we are here in the city of Manor oftentimes don't have that contact information to figure out what's going on. And I appreciate you staying in contact with me to find out what is going on, who those contacts were, and to collaborate and coordinate a lot of the services, especially say for Briar Creek that just announced, and they're within the county area of the city of Manor, we're out of water for 40 hours, no electricity. And just realizing that yesterday, in what you and County Commissioner Trevelyan have done within the last 24 hours to coordinate 1,800 mills and to find out what was going on with the water, as Mayor Adler said, from the federal level and trying to get that here. Yes, as I just messaged to them today, yes, we unfortunately were working on issues we realized and that we knew. But what we are doing and what we will continue to do is when we find out something new that needs to be addressed, we might not be able to get it to you right now, but we're going to try to get it to you by tomorrow. And that's the best that we can do. And I think that's the relationships we've kind of built over time through the COVID and the threats of violence. And even now in this inclement weather, there's still more work that needs to be done as we're learning other things we have not paid attention to, or as we learned with ERCOT. Just because it's a recommended decision doesn't necessarily mean it just needs to be something you don't do. And you say, well, we at least analyzed it, we reviewed it. We need to identify really what needs to occur and to put the people first by actually utilizing and spending those tax dollars where they need to go.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Fuentes, what are you seeing from your perspective in the city and around the city?
Thank you, Judge Brown. For me, one thing I want to say is that I'm cautiously optimistic, cautiously hopeful, especially knowing how many households now have their power turned on. But we know that there will still be families who will go to bed tonight without power. We know there's families that'll be without power and without water. And the sense that I'm getting from the community is frustration, wanting, demanding accountability, wanting more transparency. I will say, I did the math today and I was like, okay, how many days have I been in office? And I got to, I think it's my 43rd day in office. And in those days, this has been a crash course in crisis communications, right? And understanding, what we communicate to the public and the community and just how important it is that we're consistent, that we set expectations. And for my community, especially in Southeast Travis County, it's a sense of they expect the worst. And, the sad reality is that when disaster strikes, we know that it doesn't affect everyone equally, right? And for Southeast, we have been through significant flooding events. And so when this winter storm happened, when this disaster happened to our community, we were able to quickly mobilize because we knew the systems and had, local community-based systems in place. We were able to stand up 3 shelters in a matter of, very quickly. By Sunday, we had a few up and running. But it comes from a place of knowing the history of having decades of institutional neglect and knowing that when disasters strike, it's going to affect us differently. So the feedback I'm getting from our community is a lot of questions as to why this happened, and already wanting to know, like, what are we going to do differently, and also pragmatic questions of understanding what is their water bill going to look like, knowing that we ask folks to drip faucets to keep pipes from freezing, and knowing that we are in a wastewater averaging period. And so folks want to know how this will affect their bill. I've had families reach out to me, saying that they went to a hotel for a few days because they had their 83-year-old grandmother with them and their power went out. And so when you are already, struggling to make ends meet, this type of disaster certainly exasperates the situation and certainly makes it harder. And so, but I'm confident with, with the council and our county commissioners that we will come forward with policies to help our families, and we have a record of doing that. And I'm happy to be a part of that moving forward. And another thing I want to mention is just the humanity that we're seeing coming across from neighbors. We've had neighbors step up and volunteer to turn off the water valves and help neighbors find where the water valve is in their home. When I went to visit the Mendez shelter, and thank you, Mayor Adler, for visiting our shelter at Mendez Middle School. And I was seeing, the homes. I could see families outside with their generator that they had, and trying to do all that they can. And then also stepping up to volunteer. We had several members of our community staff the site at Mendez as we waited for the Red Cross to step in and to help out. And they continue to volunteer. Some went to volunteer at 3 a.m. So 3 to 7 a.m. And that just goes to how resilient our community is and how everyone is lending a hand. And so, yeah, I think similarly, we're all building the same questions and responses from our community about wanting accountability. But I know that a time and place will come for that. And for now, keeping our focus on immediate response, immediate solutions, and doing all that we can to collaborate with each other at our multiple levels so that we give our community the best response possible.
That's some really great points. And yeah, I'm hearing really similar things to that. We are getting some questions on the Facebook chat, kind of mainly about, or honestly around water and kind of when we'll see that come back, and what are some of their significant issues are brought up by water that I think you kind of addressed, Councilmember Fuentes. As far as I know about, water coming back, I have not honestly heard a date that anyone has given as to when it will come back. I think there's so many breaks in the water mains and low pressure issues. It sounds like it could be a while. And honestly, like, I tried to get a plumber to fix the break at my parents' house, and I've been getting a busy signal for the last 2 days. So I know that it's going to be a while for some houses. Council member, do you have any perspective on that? Any thoughts on how long it'll be, or what you're hearing?
Yeah, earlier today, I joined colleagues, Mayor Pro Tem Harper Madison and Councilmember Kassar, and we had a virtual briefing with Austin Water and with Austin Energy. And they let us know that it is a complex methodology involved with checking the pipes in our systems in place. So we should anticipate a multi-day effort for us to come back with our water treatment.
Yeah, that's it. And Mayor Wallace, I know you're on a different system in Manor, right? You have I think a different water provider and a different electricity provider. Any sense there on the timing of resolving the water issues?
Yeah, like I said, the last 24 hours has been almost the big significant difference. We have two different electric companies out here that had two totally different situations that occurred. Blue Bonnet had rolling power. Encore had nothing. They didn't start getting it until earlier today. You're talking about with water, we have some HOAs that is split in between them. So we had Manville, people from Manville, there was a water main break, and the other one, they're just now getting water. We have the different providers that are in our extraterritorial jurisdiction. So that's where the collaboration between us and county is really crucial and critical to make sure the inquiries are happening. And unfortunately, and I'm just going to be brutally honest. Unfortunately, we had to call them to find out what was going on. And with Manville, you finding out that they sent someone out to go fix the main line 2 hours ago. The group didn't get there. They go to send someone else. They can't get there because of the ice. And so they divert water to my HOA 6 to 7 hours later. Why couldn't you do that from the first moment, right? We have Encore that makes a decision, levels up without informing us, and we talked about this, informing us at the community leadership level that they're going to keep some people on the grid and they're going to keep others off, because it creates more issues potentially of burning fuses and so forth by putting people and rotating people because they have a different grid system than someone else. That would have been nice to know, because we have people humanistically are going to bunker down in their own houses versus, hey, you're not going to have electricity for a while. How about you go find somewhere else to go, right? We also had situations of trying to find or create warming places, warming centers. And this is one of the big differences I'm always talking with Mayor Adler about between a small suburban versus a big city. We don't have the generators located and so forth. So when things shut down for us, it shuts down. And how are we trying to take care of the people? How are we trying to get the information? How are we trying to know what's going on to let these people know? And when we have a city that the zip code flows into Austin District 1, flows into Pflugerville, flows into portions of Elgin, and then we have big gaps and holes that belong to the county, we have to do a lot of overlapping discussions to ensure everybody's taken care of when they're looking at me, my council, and city hall team of providing that support. They don't necessarily understand tax dollars goes to this entity. That's who I need to be finding things out. They go to who's the local leader on the ground to give them the information straight from the horse's mouth. And that's probably been the biggest thing that's been frustrating with COVID, with the violent threats, and now this, we still haven't figured that out.
Thanks. Mayor Adler, what are you seeing about the, you kind of addressed this before, but any thoughts about when water would come online? Any new perspective there?
I think that Councilmember Fuentes said the same thing that I'm hearing, which is they really don't know, because they don't know how many breaks there are in the line. Because they're frozen, you can't see it. It's when it thaws that we're going to see them. And I think that's the concern all over Texas right now, is that we're going to have massive numbers of breaks in line. And everybody I hear from, Andy, is Judge Brown is saying the same thing about plumbers. Everybody's trying to get some online, which is what we were suggesting that people do a couple of days ago. And probably that's the profession you want to be in right now, is to be a plumber. But to what Councilmember Fuentes said, is even after they fix all of those things and they have then a sound system, then it takes a certain period of time to be able to then power it up and pressure it up and run it to get the kind of the I don't know if it's mud or whatever it is that's in the water that, when you were to pour glass and it's not clear, they have to, get that out of the system. So it's not going to be something that happens right away. And it's probably going to be, a matter of days. It's not going to be something that's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I kind of want to give everybody a chance to say something final here. It sounds, first of all, I just want to thank all the volunteers. I mean, everybody that you see behind me has been working around the clock, some of them sleeping up here. We've got a really great network of community volunteers that have been helping give people rides, people who have four-wheel drive vehicles who've been giving people rides, people who have jumped up to help at all the shelters and the warming facilities. I mean, as hard as things are for everybody, it's really great that there's so many volunteers coming together. Councilmember Fuentes, certainly share your feeling that maybe we could ask Austin Water to look at least not including the water usage in this period and in the averaging, look at ways to make the economic impact less severe. I think that is great. I know that Mayor Adler and I have the moratorium on evictions still going, and all of us on council and at the commissioner's court are going to need to work on ways with the federal government to try to help us ease out of that at some point through hopefully increased federal dollars coming to help with rental assistance. But yeah, the economics of this, from my perspective, are going to be huge. But I'm also really encouraged by just everyone, all three of y'all, and even our new federal government that we have working with us to help us get through this. So I think that's encouraging. Pass it on to Mayor Wallace. You want to give us any final thoughts about what you see over the next couple of weeks?
Definitely. We believe we should have full strength in water, except for Manville. I just kind of spoke to what that main valve should be back to full pressure here in the city of Manor. For everybody else by tomorrow. It seems everybody's up on electricity. Just seeing how long the people on Encore have a longer time with the actual power. When it comes to the food, we've got the coordination through Central Texas Food Bank for 20 pallets, 1,800 meals. We just coordinated picking that up for delivery and handing out tomorrow to everybody within the Manor area. Our Manor support group, disaster COVID group that was created for COVID is also supporting and helping out, trying to provide food and support to our ETJ areas as well. And honestly, the leader of this, who's also the president for our school district, slipped on some ice from a report I got and broke a couple bones. So I'm going to have to, when I get off of this call and see how she's doing and inform the community that you have people that are out there really trying to help and support. And they're also getting injured too, trying to do that support to people. Our police, the city of Manor, bought some water a couple of days ago for one of our HOAs, and they handed a case of water to each house within that HOA as soon as we found out they didn't have water. So definitely, as Councilmember Fuentes is saying, you know, the community is coming together. We as local level leaders are coming together, you know, especially, and we've done this time and time again when the entities and the organizations we're supposed to rely on just aren't producing. And I appreciate that we are coming together, given our differences, because we know at the end of the day what we need to do. And we're all exercising our role to hold people accountable, as you said before, to ask the questions and find out why we don't know the information we should know, to be able to prepare our people for what is coming, not what has happened.
Thank you, Councilmember Fuentes. Any thoughts on what's coming up?
Yes, and thank you, Judge Brown, for convening this conversation. I just have been in awe of your leadership, and I'm so appreciative and grateful for all that you're doing for our community right now. You know, my message to the Austin community is that I'm with you. I'm right there with you, and feeling frustrated and upset of how much our systems have failed us, and that this is not okay, and that we need change. And you can count on me and my team to do all that we can to change this, because it should never happen again. And we are working every single hour on the hour to do all that we can to get water restored, to get power restored, to get communications out there, to connect you to those departments, to let folks know that the phone lines are jammed, that emails are not getting through, that things need to get updated. Please know that we are working hard for you. And that is our duty as public servants. You can count on that. And then just know that if you need anything, please feel free to send me a message, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're checking it all day. And as Mayor Adler said, you know, at 2 a.m. last night, I was looking at the outage map to see if our numbers had increased. And so know that we are vigilantly monitoring and here with you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mayor Adler. Want to have any final words?
You know, as we've been going through the call, I've been reading the comments in Facebook, and I think that we've answered most of the one recurrent question again is when water's going to come back, and asking for greater specificity on that. And I think that's what we all want. I wish it was there to have, because we don't know how many breaks there are. But specifically what we're told is that when they get enough of the breaks fixed, it's going to be at somewhere between 24 and 48 hours after that in order to pressure up the system. We don't know how long it's going to take to find all the necessary breaks, because we don't know how many there are or where they are at this point, because they're frozen. And that's the problem, or the inability to be able to answer that question more specifically. I would point out, we didn't talk about it, Judge, that vaccines, we are still in the middle of COVID, and we can't lose sight of that. You know, so please, you know, when you're around other people that you don't live with, as the judge is doing, wear your mask, social distance, but know that the vaccine, I think, will be gearing back up this weekend. We're going to be getting out all the vaccines that we have. We're going to be increasing the number of hours. We'll be maybe increasing the number of locations. Austin Public Health will be reaching out to people that are most vulnerable when there's a time to be able to sign up. People who have already gotten their first shot will get their second shot. Don't worry about it. It has your name on it. It's not going to go to somebody else. It is your shot. Austin Public Health will be reaching out to you with a time for you to be able to come in and get that shot. Know that the CDC has said that you can take up to 42 days after your first dose to get your second dose, and we're going to hit those marks. So just as soon they're like waiting at the gate to pick back up and finish that operation, and it will happen because we want to get vaccine out to everybody that we can. Finally, Judge, I just say that, you know, you and I have been talking about this a lot. The sentiment that was expressed by Mayor Wallace and by Councilmember Fuentes is real. We all share in the anger and the frustration for this. What has been asked of people in our community goes beyond anything that should be asked. People have power for 50, 60, 70 hours. Is just, it can't happen. And we had a system in this state that was not set up to protect us against extreme weather situations at the cold weather. And everything that we're seeing happening in the environment now indicates to us that these extreme situations are going to be happening more and more. We need to change our system so that there's a built-in incentive or an ability for these power generations around the state to actually weatherize to a much greater level. I'm sure that will be among all the questions that get asked. We're going to spend a lot of time looking at what happened in the city of Austin as well to make sure that we do this better. But know that the anger and the frustration is something that is palpable. We see it, we read it, we hear it as we go around the city. I can only tell you that it is also shared. We're going to focus on the next few days to get everybody through this as safely. And then there are going to be a lot of questions that we're all going to be getting answers to together. Judge, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks everyone. And I just keep getting the same question. What does multiple days mean without water? I mean, to be blunt, it means 3, 4, 5 more days. I mean, it could be a while before we have water back. And so just to be super blunt, keep conserving water. I saw that Representative Donna Howard tweeted a picture that she's bringing snow in from outside to put in her toilet tank to flush the toilet. And that's on it. That I'm doing the same thing. You may notice I don't look like a beauty contestant today. I've not taken a shower today. And so we really have to limit the showers and laundry and everything for the next few days so that the water pressure can build up. And just, it's going to be tough and hard. And people that don't have water right now, we're trying to get bottled water to you. I know that Constable Stacy Suits has gotten some out to some communities in Austin and Travis County. And that hopefully that shipment from Fort Worth will arrive tomorrow. And then over the weekend, more and more bottles of water. So we'll get that to you as soon as humanly possible, but it's still going to be tough for several days here. So thank you for sticking with it, and we're all in this together. But thank you all very much. I know that Councilmember Fuentes, Mayor Adler, Mayor Wallace, and I all want to hear from you. So find us on social media wherever you're watching us here, and let us know how we can help. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.